Good evening and welcome to this Sunday, July 4th edition of the Island Stats Cricket Show. I'm your host, Earl Basin. Joining me as co-host, Dean Miners. And our guest this evening is none other than former Bermuda national coach, Gus Logie. We do want to, first of all, start off by saying our deepest thoughts are with the Manders family as they are going through a challenging time, and we wish all the best for the Manders family at this time. We want to especially extend to our other co-host, Andre Doc Manders, that we're here for you, brother. We're here for you.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm not too sure as to what's happened, but my condolences and certainly to the family as well.
Yes. Well, Coach, welcome.
Thank you very much. Let me apologize for last week, but we know who's to blame for that. As coaches, we always seem to want to blame somebody. So,
Yes.
but we won't go into that, right? We'll all take the responsibility.
We'll leave the guy whose name starts with D. We'll leave him
And I've always known, Coach, everything's got to be prompt and.
Well, you know how it is with coaches. We like to be organized, and in advance.
Yes.
All right, good.
Yes. Brush your teeth and dot your eyes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Let me just quickly give an update of what took place today. So far in the Premier Division, Baylis Bay defeated St. David's by 27 runs. Baylis Bay batted first and scored 158 for 7. St. David's could only reply with 131 for 9 in their 20 overs. Somerset made 181 for 8 in their 20 overs, and Willocots are on the chase at this time. In the first division, Somerset Bridge went down by 5 wickets to Western Stars at the Seabreeze Oval. Somerset Bridge scored 115 for 5. Western Stars scored 118 for 5. And up at Somerset Cricket Club, PHC won by 6 runs over Flats Victoria. PHC scored 99 for 9, and Flats were 93 for 7 in reply. So that's what we have right now. Once we have the final numbers from the Willocots Somerset game, we'll bring that to you. But let's jump right in with former national coach Gus Logie. Again, Mr. Logie, welcome back to Bermuda. I know you and I had a chat when you did come back.
Yes.
In our discussion, Dean, myself, and Doc's discussion, there's a lot of things that we're lacking in this, I guess, we could say in the professionalism of coaching. And someone with your knowledge and your experience of first playing at a high level and then coaching at a high level, and the multitude of countries that you've been involved with, we just thought it would be an opportunity to get you to give us some guidance, some way forward, some avenues in which can help improving not just cricket coaching, but coaching in general in this country. Because I think anybody that's in a coaching capacity, no matter what sport it is, can take advice from another coach who's coached at a very, very high level. So I know Dean has been talking.
Dean.
What's that?
Dean has all the questions.
Dean wants to be a coach, but he said he can't take all that ribbon, man. He can't. He don't have any patience for that.
Hey, listen, I saw what Coach went through.
We'll try and keep it as clean as possible, right?
Dean, go ahead, man.
Yeah. I think Earl led into it, Coach, which was the top tips for being a good coach. What are some of the top tips you would say?
Well, even before we even go into that, I think let's say what defines a coach. I think the dictionary says something as someone, that whose job is to basically provide training, for persons or team in preparation for some event or something. In our case, we're talking about cricket. And as coaches, we have philosophies, and of course, most important is the personal development of players, both on and off the field, of all ages and ability. Sometimes the essence of some of that may be commitment, strong work ethic, responsibility. All those qualities are qualities that, as a coach, you want to also bring to the table. But of course, as I keep saying all the time, we have a real opportunity to influence young people in a positive way. And I think we can't keep stressing on that. Very important as coaches, we have an opportunity to influence young people in a positive way, their lives in a positive way, both as individuals and as a team member and in teams, and that's going to be very important. Some of that, obviously, is good communication. You got to be a good communicator. You got to be able to provide clear instructions and feedback, to the team, the individuals that you're dealing with. And of course, communication goes both ways. So of course, if you're communicating, you want to get feedback from the individuals as to how they feel, what are some of the things they like, what are some of the things they don't like. Coaching takes into a lot of areas. You're a teacher because you are developing skills, you're developing team tactics as well. So that's going to be important. You are a motivator because you want to be able to motivate your troops. You have to do things to motivate them, to inspire them, to maintain control and interest in the game. That's going to be very important. You're also a leader because leadership is very important. Organizing training, these things are very important. Match days, social activities, all these are part and parcel of your responsibility as a coach as you go forward. And sometimes, Dean, you deal with some individuals who don't only need skills coaching, but they need some psychological help as well.
Yes.
And you have to be able to be a psychologist, to be able to, talk to them in a nurturing way, encourage them, support them as best as possible. You are a manager because you are dealing with a wide range of players, different attitude, officials, supporters, the media, you're dealing with all that. You are a sports trainer. Because at the end of the day, you have to develop fitness programs in conjunction with your, if you have a SNC with you. Most times in coaching over the years, because of lack of funding, you alone, you're doing it by yourselves. But the game and coaching has evolved. So now you have a lot of support around you that you can call on in case, at the end of the day. You're a selector because you have to select, which is going to be important. And when you're selecting teams, sometimes you don't always get it right. It's not an exact science. And if you don't select a player, the first thing the player will say, like, the coach don't like me. It has nothing to do with the fact that, you basically are selected a team for a particular tournament, and you may have criterias, and the criterias are well known to the individuals. But of course, once they're not selected, that's quite an easy thing. You're also a student of the game. Very important. You have to continually upgrade yourself. The knowledge of the game, rules of the game keeps changing all the time. The dynamics keep changing, so it's going to be important. And of course, public relations. You're representing club, you're representing country, whoever you're coaching. Officials, functions that you attend to. You have to be in communication all the time with, in community activities, and so it takes on a wide cross section of responsibility to be a coach. And I think that's going to be very important. We can start off with some of those things, So that's going to be very important. And of course, like everything else with coaching, you have different styles,
Yes.
because, you may come on board and you might be, a guy who's an authoritarian. And of course, you want things the way you want things. It's, a strong disciplinarian, you want to be well organized. At the end of the day, good team spirit sometimes happens when you're in that kind of environment. But of course, it could be a little bit of, you have some dissension at times in your setup, being that kind of authoritarian figure. You may get into a little bit of, as you say, to and fro with some players who are strong-headed just as you are. So that's, and then of course sometimes you have the business-like coaches who are intelligent, logical approach to how they do things. They plan things beforehand. They expect 100% effort all the time. Then you have the guys who's a nice guy, nice guy coach. Everybody like him, but you don't really push the players sometimes. In those kind of situations, and you get on well with players, especially of a similar temperament. Then you have the intense coaches, who emphasize only winning only. High anxiety levels transmitted to the players at times. And then, of course, you have the easygoing coach who he gives the impression that he's not taking things too seriously. you know, but and you may be, well, you know, you're not prepared to really drive the players sometimes, you know, whatever happens, you know, and if you come, you come, if you don't, you don't, you know, no problem, anything, you know, and players get away with a lot of stuff, these guys. But it's important to understand that, you know, in the coaching world, it doesn't matter what level you coach at, you need a combination of all of those, because you're really dealing with different individuals at different stages, you know. And I always talk about, if you're at a professional stage nowadays, is not too much the teaching of skills or, you know, imparting some of your knowledge. It's more about man managing, because at the professional level, most of these guys have played the game, they understand the game, they know the rules, they know their skill sets, they understand their own game. So what you're really doing at that level is managing, you know, managing possibly the egos in the group as much as possible than anything else. But if you're at development stages, that's where the teaching really comes in. And that's where, at the end of the day, you're trying to inculcate really good habits from early into youngsters and as you go along. And then, of course, the planning stage comes in. You have a team and you want to be able to sit down, you have a vision, all these things come in, where you plan how you want to play the game, you understand the cultures, whether it's a national team, whether it's a club team, how we want to play, how we're going to get to where we want to get to. These are the things we have to do. These are the standards that we want to set. You know, these are the different things. So it really and truly, it takes in, you know, a broad, ready perspective of coaching. So maybe we can get into some specific as we go along.
I do want to ask one question beforehand, Dean. Gosh, I'm not calling you Earl, but you've been around for some time.
We call experience.
Yeah.
When did you see the cycle starting to change? When I guess media, public, always, well, hindsight is always 2020. Second guessing the coaches, because when you played, everybody knew the player. Very few people knew who the coaches were.
Yeah.
But when did that start to change in your eyes?
One can say, people talk about professionalism, and it takes a wide range of profession where players start taking a little bit more ownership of their game and of themselves and what they need and what they want. So in the early days when coaching, where you used to instruct people, you used to say, do this, do that, do the other, without any opposition. Nobody used to ask you, well, why I'm doing so. And so they trusted you, because the kind of a relationship between player, coach is a trust. They trust that you have the knowledge, you understand what it takes to take them from one level to the next. But when many of those players start getting to that level, where they felt comfortable, they're earning a lot of money, they're doing the things they want to do, they themselves start challenging the status quo, if you want to call it that, and challenging some of your knowledge, some of your understanding of how things used to be. And that's why I'm saying, as a coach, you have to continually upgrade. You got to continually improve as you go along to keep up with the changing, world that we're living in as far as the coaching world is concerned. In the early days, we never had the amount of science that there is now. Let's put it this way. We never had the amount of visual as you have now. So a lot of players in the early days who never saw players play, they depended on the coaches to see what X, Y, did. Now they're seeing for themselves. So when you sit in a room to discuss with a player about his game, he's saying to you, well, I'm doing so and so, I'm doing so and so. What are you recommending? You understand? It is not no, I'm saying, well, I think you're doing this, or I think you're doing it. It's what are you recommending? And sometimes you put it back on the player. What do you think? That's the kind of conversation you're having now with players. What do you think? Because you want players to continue to take ownership of their game. And you want them to understand their game. Because when they get out there in the middle, decision-making cannot be looking at the and so wonder what the coach thinks. You have to make those decisions for yourself in the middle. And that's why so many times you can sit and you see, the decision making is poor, but and stuff like that. And what is the coach doing, or what is he saying? But no, players now are in a situation where they have to learn as much as possible. It's unfortunate that we have a lot of young players coming into the setup now who are actually learning on the job. Let's put it this way. Whereas in the past, you would have had a period where you would have had a lot of, preparation going into a tournament. So in the early days, you would have played 30, 40 first-class games, so you have an understanding of a good game situation, what it means, what it does. But now a lot of players, after 2-3 first-class games, they're into the test side, they're into the international arena. So they're really, cutting their teeth at the international arena. So that kind of support system around them is important. And that's why touring teams now have not only a coach, they have a head coach. But I always wonder what the head coaches now, because the head coaches now are managing not only the players, but they're managing the staff. You have bowling coach, batting coach, fielding coach, so you really wonder what the head coach is doing. So all he's doing is managing all these people. But that's the way the sport is going now.
Dean, let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, you can jump right in. We'll be right back.
We're welcoming back the often featured Whole Food veterans Bragg Live Food Products, renowned for their live probiotic organic raw cider vinegar and savory seasonings. Paul Bragg is the man behind the products that has originated health food stores, restaurants and spas, and promoted nutrition education through the media, helping lay the foundation for the enlightened way we make healthful choices when we shop for and prepare food. This month we're featuring Bragg Organic Raw and Unfiltered Apple Cider Vinegar and Organic Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Jump in, Dean.
Yeah, Coach, I know that you mentioned quite a bit there. I think one of the things that really struck me when I was introduced to you was your attention to detail. How did you actually develop that? Because that was something that was very striking to me as a player, and how you would analyze the game, analyze the way that we were going to play. How did you develop those skills? Have you always been a person that's been, you always paid attention to detail, because you were phenomenal?
Well, I think in hindsight, you benefit of having played the game as well. You kind of discount that as a player, a former player getting into coaching. People might think it's second nature, but it's very important that what you bring to the table is what you would have gone through so many times before. So you bring in that experience to be in a different capacity. You understand what I'm saying? So paying attention to detail is something you did as a player. As I said before, we were fortunate to grow up in a time where we never had the benefit of a lot of technology. Let's put it this way. So as a player, you would sit and have to analyze the opposition from memory. You understand? From what you would have seen from the previous game, and probably from what you would have been told by people. And sometimes you go and get information from wherever you go into. You go to Australia, you go to England, you would talk to the county guys, you would talk to other guys and say, what type of player is X or Y? And you say, well, he's strong on the offside, or he's strong on the leg side, or you don't like the short ball. So these are things you got to now stick in your computer up there, and you have to recall it when the time comes. So as a team, this is what we did. So we would sit as a group and we would discuss from top to bottom, even the guys who weren't even in the 11, 15, 16, 17, because you never know who you're going to be up against. So you discuss everybody, and you compile what you call a dossier on each individual. And that is upgraded every time you see the individual, because as players, you improve. So if last week you told me that this guy couldn't drive on the offside, but in a few months' time, you see him, he's doing that very well. I have to now say to myself, look, I need to either cross that out or look for something else. So at the end of it, that sort of, process was there before even getting into coaching. And getting into coaching, you made it even better. Now you have the hindsight of, a lot of video footage. Now you have the technology coming in over the years, and you're able to sit and watch. You have them playing on television, so you understand the psyche more than anything else. So that is something that I encourage all young coaches and even players to really and truly pay attention to, because nothing is a secret anymore, to be quite honest. The world is as small as you think. People used to think the world is so huge, but below at the click of a switch, you can see things that are happening all in England, Australia, and you can really and truly develop, your own what you call dossier or your own computer files on each individual. But the most important thing is to be able to recall it when it's necessary.
I guess the next question would be sometimes you have, and I know these technical coaches, and you have another coach, and we talked about it just now, psychological coach. And I know at one time, I was asked the question, was Logie more of a technical or psychological? And I said to him, I said, I think it was more of a psychological than technical, because there was the other side of the psychological aspect of a player that we now even tapped into when we got onto that international level. So just explain how, I mean, when you come into contact with certain players that, and they don't have that much experience in the psychological, how do you transfer that? Because they would start looking at, you know, I think it's a problem with my technique, and it's not a problem with the technique. Actually, it's more to do with psychological.
Yeah, I think what happens is that, you know, it's very important that we train players in all aspects of the game. You know, one of the things we talk about is that everybody thinks it's physical. We do a lot of physical work with players, you know, and sometimes we do a lot of technical work with players, but we don't do as much tactical work and more mental work with players, you know, and that's important going forward. It's a combination of everything. And I think if we spend just as much time as we spend in the nets, we spend in the classroom, learning the game, thinking the game, talking the game, analyzing the game, understanding how we feel as an individual, why we feel how we feel. When I get up in the morning, you know, how do I feel? Do I feel confident? Do I feel that I can go out there and perform? Even if I didn't have a net the day before, you understand what I'm saying? And all these sort of feelings comes in to the individual. And if that individual cannot really and truly rationalize it, it makes it very difficult for the individual to perform, even though he might have a certain amount of skill sets. You understand? Because the game itself brings to it a certain amount of pressure. The game itself brings with it a certain amount of expectation. Every time an athlete goes out there, he's expected to perform, whether it's from himself, his family, his friends, his team, the country, depending on the levels you play at, expectation is there. So pressure is always there. How do you deal with that pressure mentally can make or break you as an individual. And we have seen too many times that players, you know, go out there, they have all the skills, they would have practiced day in, day out, they would have hit a lot of balls, they would have bowled a lot of balls, and then they get out there in a situation where it's a tight situation and they fold. They don't perform, and you wonder what is going on with this guy. Sometimes it's all up in the head, you know. So if you can get the head right most times and understand why I'm doing certain things, why I'm not doing certain things, and then you start to tick the boxes, you know. And you sit and say, okay, maybe after I run for, you know, an hour or half an hour, I run out of steam and I can't seem to focus, I can't seem to concentrate. And then you will say, okay, maybe we need to do a little bit more, you know, conditioning work. We need to do a little bit more this. And then we said, okay, well, we're doing that now. So we okay. Maybe something else may crop up. Maybe your diet needs to look at what you're eating, what you're not eating, what you should be eating. You know, are you getting enough sleep? Are you not taking too much alcohol intake? All these things can affect your performances. So once you could identify, it makes it a lot easier, because the game itself is about confidence. If you have confidence, your confidence in your preparation, and confidence in everything that you do, there's every possibility when you go out in the middle, you'll be a bit more competent and possibly you'll perform a bit better.
What about the balance of the professional and the amateur? Because one can't be, I know we do it, but one can never be lumped in the same. You wanna train like a professional as an amateur, but there's mindsets that complicate a lot of those things to cross that line.
Yeah, and that's why I say the athlete needs a lot of support. A lot of support around the athlete is very important. Let's say, for instance, you are a national player, but you are an amateur, but you have been training hard. But so you need your association to make sure that they can provide you with adequate, you know, with not compensation, but for your time, for making sure you eat the right things, making sure that when you get to training, there is enough liquids around there. So you're not wanting for anything in that respect. You may not be getting a big salary. You may not be getting the thousands of dollars like the guys in the IPL and whatever and stuff like that. But the point is that for you to perform at that level, you got to have good facilities. All these things are helpful to prepare yourself to the best of your ability, so that you know at the end of the day, the association left nothing to chance. You know, so at the end of the day, you feel a little bit more confident. You feel a little bit more confident that I did the training, I had everything that I needed, I got the support that I needed, and the support sometimes it could be a job. It could be a situation on the job. What is happening? Can I get the extra time off? And the association could speak to your employers, and they could say, all right, this guy is representing the national team. Maybe we can give him an extra, few days off just to train, just to do certain things. All those things go a long way in helping the individual to understand that what I'm doing is important, not just for me, but for my community, for my country, and so that it helps in a lot of ways. But you talk about professional amateurs. I remember when I was a young man, I had a coach who used to say, there's nothing stopping you from training as a professional. You may not be paid as a professional.
Right.
Nothing is stopping you from training. You could be as fit or even fitter than a professional is at this point in time. Yeah.
Okay. Dean?
All right. In your experience, what are the most common psychological issues facing cricketers today?
Well, let's put it this way, especially in these COVID times. I mean, time away from home is really a difficult thing for a lot of people. Now people talk about being in a bubble and how frustrating it is, how difficult it is you can't unwind, you can't relax, you can't do this, you can't do that. You're restricted in some way. So mentally, it's tough for the individual, and that's professionals. Let's think about it. That's your job, but it's mentally tough for them. So you can imagine how difficult it would be for an amateur, for a young man, and with family who's not being well paid to make those kind of sacrifices now. But if you love the game, obviously, some of the things about it, you love the game, you have a goal, you have a desire to be the best you can be, the sacrifices will have to be made. You have to show a lot of resilience. At the end of the day, it's going to be very important going forward. It's no two ways about it. We are in a situation where this thing is not going anywhere. We got to learn to live with this. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but I do believe it's something we got to learn to live with. How best we can cope with it will certainly, be in our best interest, to do so.
Okay.
I've got another one for I don't know if you remember this, at the World Cup, Gus, we had meetings and he was telling me, just be careful of, these guys are human beings, you're going to be in awe, just relax yourselves, just, so I want you to tell us about the experience. He comes down the steps, right? And we're in Jamaica, and we went to this function, I guess, before the actual ceremony. And all we are, in our suits and everything, and Gus will basically explain it. And we stood there in absolute awe of the Australians walking across. The average height will be about 6'4". Yeah. And then everyone was on the ground, so we're standing there, right? And all of us like this.
Hey,
we were in awe. So all of a sudden, Gus looks at us and says, "Let me run to these guys. Guys, it's okay. Guys, it's all right. Just relax yourselves." So, hey, and I was even one. I'm like, hey, that's Adam. That's Gilchrist. Yes. And we were just all of us were in awe. So, look, how did you?
It happens.
What was your thoughts?
No matter how much you prepare, they keep saying there are some things. No matter how much you prepare for it, it's just when the occasion arises. It's really something. I myself, when I started playing the game, I remember the names I heard before actually being in that team. People like Clive Lloyd, Viv Richards, Joel Garner, Michael Holden, Malcolm. I was in awe of those guys, even when I played against them. I was in awe of them. And then to be in the same dressing room with them, when I first met them, it's the same thing. I was like, geez. But you always have to keep telling yourself, look, the reason why I'm here is because I think I'm good enough. And you have to believe that in yourself, that I'm good enough to be here. I have the skill that's as these guys. Yes, they may have the experience. They've been around longer than I have, but I have the skill. I have the belief in my skills. I've worked hard. I deserve to be here. And at the end of the day, you have to keep that determination and say to yourself, look, I'm going to go out there and show them. I'm going to go out there and show them. So you got to have that self-belief. There's no two ways about it.
I find it very interesting, Dean, that he had to come over and talk to everyone, because I can only imagine what the faces look like.
Oh.
And of course, everyone is looking up because
Look, there's nothing to be ashamed of. I can tell you, I remember, when in the playing days, we would go to, Australia as well too. And when we come to the airport, the people would be in awe of us.
Right.
When we went to train, there were hundreds and hundreds of people just watching you train. And of course, West Indians are ready to take off the shirt and they flex their muscles. And and even when the Australian team would see us training, they would be saying, "You guys are beasts, man. You guys in this hot sun, you guys are training for hours and hours." So they were in awe as well. It's not two ways about it. And that's what happens when you have, you have a champion team, or you're trying to create that kind of aura around your team, and everybody understands what certain vision is all about. They understand the vision, they bought into the vision. Everybody wanted to be as fit as possible and to perform to the best of ability because we understand what it meant. So as I said before, the opportunity is there, and as young players coming up, I'm hoping that they understand that you might be from a small country, but that doesn't mean you can't think big, you can't dream big, and wanting to be, because there's a lot of opportunities out there in the world now, especially in the T20 arena. So many of these tournaments are opening up daily, and the more youngsters can get involved in them, earn a good living, and they can improve their self-esteem and their belief in themselves, and who knows what can happen.
Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
We're spotlighting our old friends Woodstock Farms, who started up 50 years ago in the belief that we need more trustworthy natural food sources. Starting with one product, their line, mostly certified organic, is now more than 250 strong in 10 categories. This month we're featuring accoutrements of the barbecue, for us the pinnacle of home cuisine and one of the few forms of restorative recreation now within our reach. Try Woodstock Organic Sweet Relish, Tomato Ketchup, Baby Kosher Dill Pickles, Sauerkraut, and Hickory and Original Barbecue Sauce. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
You got another one, Dean?
Yeah, Coach. You've basically coached in different cultures. All right. As a coach, how do you, as you're coaching in these different cultures, because also you're trying to formulate a culture within your own team. All right. How do you balance that with the culture with actually that you're going into? How is it? How do you balance it?
Well, I think like everything else, it's a learning process. Let's put it this way. You got to understand the culture that you're going to be involved in. But who created cultures? Human beings, right?
Yeah.
So human beings could change it.
Yeah.
Right? So like everything else, if you have a culture that says that it's a culture that is not a culture of hard work, but if you're playing sports, if you want to be the best you can be, you must be prepared to work hard. Right? That's a given. And it's not just for your culture. That's universal. So I think when you come into a situation like myself, I would come into a country or wherever it is, and yes, that there's a culture of X, Y, or Z. You say, okay, that's fine. How do we change that culture in the context of the team itself? You may not be able to change a culture in the society, but you can change a culture within a group. Once that group understands why we're here, when I came to Bermuda, let's put it this way, Bermuda, you want to qualify for a World Cup. If you're going to qualify for a World Cup, you say to yourself, these are the things we need to do. Mm-hmm. And once you get people who wants to qualify, they will then eventually buy into that. You go to Canada, it's a similar situation. Yes, the culture in Canada will be different because you're talking about now, not just in terms of what the Canadians is all about. You're talking about now an issue of ethnicity. You talk about, the players there from Pakistan, some from India, and they have to gel to understand. But the common thread was that, why are we here? Why are we representing Canada? You understand? There must be a goal at the end of it. And once that goal is there, some of the other issues that we have, the interpersonal issues, and you have to then have sessions on conflict resolution. You sit and you talk about goal setting as a group, and you discuss. That's why I said sometimes it's not only on the playing field in terms of the skill acquisition. You want to sit in a room and discuss certain topics that are pertinent to them. that they understand the culture, not only culture, but what society is all about, what the people expect. You know, the people who are also sponsoring them, they also expect. So sometimes I ask players, you know, what do you think the fans want, or what the fans would say about this national team, or what the sponsors, if you were a sponsor, really and truly, and you want to sponsor, what would you be looking for? You understand, to spend my money. you know, you know. So these are some of the things you really have to start talking to the players about and understanding. Players, we you know, one of the things to talk about is getting into social activities within your community or on the island, doing things. You know, at the end of giving, it's almost like giving back, if you want to call it, because some of the guys have the names, they have a profile that can be used to improve their surroundings. You know, so why not use it in a positive way? You know, and I think it's important to understand that as well. So as a coach, as I said before, you come in there and it's not just about, we have to run 10 laps, we have to hit 200 balls every day, we have to bowl as fast, but it's about developing the individuals as rounded as is possible so that they can appreciate and understand some of the things that are happening in and around them, in their own communities, in their own societies, and be able to articulate it to the best of their ability while going out there and producing the goods. Because, hey, sport is a feel-good factor. I don't care what anybody tell me. You just look at what's happening in the Euros right now and you see the passion that when your team wins, I mean, the ecstasy, and of course, when you lose, you see, you know, you understand? Yes, exactly. But that is what it's all about. And in sports, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some. You know, it's no two ways about it. You can't win all the time. You're gonna lose some. Sometimes you lose more than you win. But the most important thing is that when you lose, you don't just chuck it in, you don't just give it up, you just decide that I'm not, you know, you always tell yourself that. And I lose, I'm going to learn lessons from my losses and come back stronger. And then when I win, I enjoy that, you know, that moment. You know?
So to me, what would be the most rewarding aspect of being a coach?
You know, it's funny enough when you talk about it, for me as a coach, it's always to see your charges really and truly taking their game to another level. I've always been about that. I've always been about seeing people improve, seeing, you know, I go back to countries and people will call you and they say, Coach, you remember so and so and so, thanks for this, thanks for that. That's the sort of reward that, you know, money can't buy. Of course, we need money, yeah? But, you know, I get calls daily, weekly. I get emails from players from different places, you know, and they will all tell you, you know, I mean, thanks for, you know, what you did, you know, just this advice that you gave me just changed my life, you know. That to me is priceless, you know. I tell you something, I went to Afghanistan once and many people thought I was crazy. Why do I go to Afghanistan? I said, man, I want the experience of going to Afghanistan. I went to Afghanistan and I had a session there. It was a T20 league, you know. And the first day I arrived, of course, the heavy security and stuff like that. I got to the ground in this armored vehicle and stuff. It's unbelievable. You should see the drama, you know. And I set up my stuff and we had a session, you know. And to me, it was good. It was, you know, I mean, good session. But to the players in Afghanistan, to them, it was unbelievable. And they refused to allow me to pick up anything. You know, they went and picked up everything. They said, no. They went and they picked up every single piece of equipment that was used on the field of play, you know. One of the guys there said to me, that is a sign of respect. He said, they don't get that down here too much, but that is a sign of respect. So enjoy it while it lasts. So these are things that, you know, it stays with you and it gives you the motivation, because a lot of times, you know, you motivate players, you try to inspire players by things you say, things you do. And not many people understand that coaches also needs a bit of that. Coaches need to be, you know, told, yeah, you're doing a good job. So it keeps you going as well, because when you get up every day and have to do the same thing over and over and try to do different things to get the players to perform, sometimes they're not performing as well as you expect. You feel the pressure too. You understand, at the end of the day. But what keeps you going is the little things that the players will come and you will see some improvement. You will see how a guy took a great catch. You will see a guy did, and you know that's because of the amount of practice that we put in. They play a brilliant innings because of the extra time we spend one-on-one. So those are the things that motivates you to keep going and encourages you to keep going. You know, and as I talk about that, you know, you have to send out a little something to our friend Hempy down there in the Caribbean, because I know he could be going through a rough time at this stage.
yeah. Yo, it's in yes.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, can you name 3 or 4 players who, in your mind, no matter where they were, kind of got you out of bed next day to say, this is why I coach? It's got to be like 3 or 4 moments where you say to yourself, this is it. This is the reason why I coach.
Yeah. I've had, believe it or not, a player come to mind right away with a guy called Ramna Risawan, early o'clock. I actually wasn't coaching at the time. Was coaching him at the time. He was in Australia, and he was playing and he was having a little rough time. And my phone rang in Trinidad one night, and I picked it up, and he was on the other end, and he's saying, "Coach, you know, so and so and so. What do you think?" You know, and to me, it was really it took me aback. I said, "Hey, this is a guy who is in Australia who has all these coaches with him." You know, and so you calling me in Trinidad to find out what do I think? You know, and that tells me that, hey, I may have, you know, done something right at some stage. You know, and you try to encourage him to, you know, try his best to be as, you know, confident as possible. Remember the good things he used to do, when he was playing well, what he used to do when he was playing well, how he felt. So some of the little things you just had a chat with him about, you know. So that in itself was incredible, you know. So he was one of those players right off the bat I can, you know, pinpoint. You know, I've had, you know, other guys with the West Indies team in the past, but talking about locally, I've had guys right here, you know, I mean, really and truly, I mean, who will tell you. I remember Delwan was saying, man, you know, the fielding drills that he used to do was fantastic, you know, and they moved the fielding from one level to the next, you know. So, you know, these are little things that, you know, and guys would call you and say, can we talk, you know, so and so and so. So, you know, there are quite a few instances really and truly over the years where players were just out of the blue. I mean, the women team just recently, you know, I got calls from Leandra Dutton, I get calls from, you know, Semron, and they will want to know, you know, how I'm doing, just to know how I'm doing, you know, and stuff like that. So yeah, it tells you that
you're stuck in lonely Bermuda.
I'm not complaining. I do my walks very regularly, you know.
Oh yeah. Hey, but sometimes you're unrecognizable when you're out walking. See?
Yeah, that's cool. That's all right.
He shades and he puts the hat on.
The hat's pulled on.
But Earl, guess what? You know what? Nothing has changed from the time that the team met him and that I met him. He's walked. He's been consistent, and just throw. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's not going to stop walking.
No.
It's not. Hey, amazing. You know what? We sometimes after the game, you know, we go for a cool down or do whatever the case may be, and it's just doing this walking thing.
Yeah. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's just a routine that you have, and you know, you feel good about doing it. In fact, today I talked to Levrock. I said, I need to get you out. This morning, Irvin was walking with us. So I said, I need to get Levrock out walking with us, and you know, I need to get him out doing some walking.
see, back when you were the coach, and people would see you walking, they would say, Dean and these boys have got you out walking.
Yeah.
So you don't
Yeah. For mental reasons.
Yes.
I'm telling you. It wasn't about fitness. It was more about
clearing the head.
But Coach, I have another question. You were amazing at, and a lot of coaches get stuck in that. And you talk about being the nice guy or being a coach that's a nice guy, or a coach that is trying to bond or be friendly with the players. You had a great balance. How did you, you know, there were times when we will be somewhere and then all of a sudden we turn and look and you were gone. There would be situations and you pulled yourself away from the situation. And there was always this mutual respect with your team. How did you basically find that line to not get over friendly with the players.
I think it comes back to again giving people space, because everybody needs space at some time as players, as much as possible. And sometimes it's about trusting the individual that they will do the right things when the occasion comes. And you cannot be always there policing or always feel that they're under pressure. Once you're there, they keep in line, and then once you're not there, they do whatever they want to do. No, I think that mutual respect was there for everyone, I thought. And many times, I give it to you guys as credit, you had quite a few experienced players in the setup as well, and responsible guys in the setup as well, So it worked well in that respect. As I said before, if you need to know the individuals you're working with. That is very important. So knowledge of the individuals you're working with is going to be important. You trust the individuals at the end of the day. So that's also going to be very important. But you also have to understand that everybody needs their space. Coaches need their spaces as well as players need their spaces. And it's going to be very difficult at times. You're going to be so friendly with individuals, teams especially, then it makes it difficult for you to try to discipline them when the time comes. You understand? Because you become so buddy-buddy, you're afraid to even challenge them. You're afraid to even tell them when they're doing things wrong or when they're supposed to be doing things a little bit, contrary to the team norms. So you needed to have that balance as best as possible. And I think, there are times, as I said before, you can tap somebody on the back and say, hey, well done. Or you can, hug someone. That was great. Not a problem. Even when they do wrong thing, you say, no problem. You could do better next time. And then there are times that same individual, you really need to get them a kick up the behind, If you become so friendly, you will be afraid to do it. You wouldn't want to. So you needed to have that. And once players understood that, it made it a little bit more easier. The lines were not blurred, it was quite clear.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take another commercial break. We'll be right back with more with Gus Logie. We'll be right back.
John Barrett & Son, Bermuda's favorite distributor of fine beverages, has brought us a new and refreshing thirst quencher just in time for the approaching warm weather. Hint Water in 7 luscious flavors. Hint Water is slaking the thirst of active people who need pure hydration, low on the glycemic index, and want the kind of taste experience that keeps them coming back to try the next flavor. For those who've been giving water a miss, Hint may win you over. Hint Water. No sugar, no additives, all flavor. Lynn knows. Why go anyplace else?
Gus, you mentioned something much earlier in the show about being in awe of the people in the changing room that you were with. Through your time coming through that team, what type of mental help was available to you players back then? Because obviously you're going on the road for long periods of time. There's plenty of challenges because there was, and it still goes on today, racism and the like. But what help did you guys receive that is probably available 10 times more now than back when you were playing?
But it's funny thing about it, we never really got much help outside of the team environment. You understand? We traveled with a manager. We in the early days we never had a coach. And in my latter years we had Rowan Kanai, but that's basically when most of the guys had gone. But in the early days of the Vivid Chelsea Clive Lord, the players were the ones who took the responsibility for each other. They set the pace. So we had a manager, we had an assistant manager, and the assistant manager was more responsible for doling out all the little expenses that you need to have. So you go to him and say, look, I need something here to buy something or something like that. And we had a trainer. Now the trainer was a guy called Dennis Waite. You understand? So those were the 3 people that we had on tour with us, So the captain took on the responsibility now that possibly coaches are now taking on. The captain was the person who set the pace. He was the one who said what the team is all about, what he expects from each individual. And then, of course, he will find out what the individual expects from him as a captain and so on and so. But if you needed anything at all, the senior players in the squad were the ones who always sit and talk with you. In those early days, you had roommates, right? My roommate was Gordon Greenidge at the time. There's a lot of stories about him, maybe another time. But the point is that I remember when I went to Australia, my first tour, even though Gordon was my roommate, at about 5:30 one morning, I heard a knock on my door. And when I went outside and opened the door, was Joel Garner standing there with his hands on the thing. He said, come young man, let's go for a run.
5:30.
At 5:30 in the morning. No, could you say no? Man, I put on a short so quickly and a t-shirt, man, and I went outside, and we ran for about 4 or 5 miles that morning. When we got back, coming back to the hotel, I remember some camera guys was there taking shots of us. And the next day, the newspaper article had the long and short of it. But the point is that they looked after each other, looked after us. So I immediately was like, Joe Agano was my mentor, and we would go places together. He understood me, I understood him. I learned as much as possible about what he likes, what he didn't like. He understood what I like, what I didn't like. And, so at the end of the day, that relationship is still going up to today. I can pick up the phone now and call him wherever he's in Barbados. He picks up the phone, he calls me up to now, So at the end of the day, these were your people you relied on in the team to guide you, to give you good advice, to put you on the right track. You understand? And they talk to you about your game. They talk to you about life, at the end of the day. So these were the people. Nowadays, you have now all these support staff. You have the psychologists on board. You have the masseurs on board. So the players now having issues outside of the game can go to individuals who they can confide in and talk about some of the issues they have. So every team now travels with these people. I'm telling you, there's about 11 or so support staff now for a squad of 15. You understand? And now with COVID in the air, there are even more people. There are doctors on board. Everybody. So a player now really and truly should be quite comfortable, in that environment. All things being equal, that he can talk to professionals, people who are trained professionals in the fields that they may encounter issues. Because a lot of players now, you see them have anxiety issues. And the anxiety issues is not because of the cricket itself in terms of batting and bowling, but issues outside of the game that they have to deal with, family issues, other issues, that they're struggling with. And, so many of players are now coming out of the game, especially in England over the last few years. We hear mental issues, they have them. They have recently some of the women team players in England are coming out about depression and all different things. So, and all that comes from the amount of cricket that is being played, the time away from home and family. And of course, sometimes the success is not coming as they want to. And so there are a lot of issues around, but they have people, professional people now that they can talk to.
Dean,
I have one.
There you go. The long and short. That's cute. That's cute.
Could you imagine that frame at the door saying, "Let's go"?
I know.
I'm telling you, all I'm seeing, I tell you, I still picture it, man. It frightens you when you see that hand on the wall, just like that. Come on, young man, let's go for a run.
Oh yeah, and with a deep voice.
With a deep voice, 5:30 in the morning. You can imagine, man. No, it's funny because one of the things, going back to the fact that you talk about the coaches and the players and wanting to be buddies with the players and stuff. I think sometimes coaches are not confident in their own ability to really and truly manage their players the way they should. And they think that players can only play for them if they're nice to them. And I have to put that in there. Some teams, I've spoken to a lot of coaches back home, and sometimes when you're talking to them, you get the impression they feel that if a player don't like them, the player could always not perform for them and not perform well enough, and they could lose, and therefore they could lose their job. So they sometimes feel the only way I can get to keep my job is to allow players to basically disrespect really and truly what a team environment should be about. Because these are things that are there because the team itself decided this is the way we want to do. The team sets the standards most times, the guidance from the coaches, but the team will say, look, we want to train so and so and so. This is how we want to train. We want to get here early on time. We want to do this. We want to do that. They're the ones sometimes who set the pace, and they're prepared to break it. And if as coaches, we are afraid to say to them, this is what you had agreed to. This is what the agreement that we have. And you are now breaking it. You're disrespecting the team, disrespecting what we're about. But many coaches today are afraid to really rock the boat. They just allow things to happen. We see it all the time, even at the international level, a coach at that level. And many times you go there, you basically, as I said, you're just not coaching. You're more guiding along possibly. And the players themselves are the one who dictating the pace. So it has changed a lot.
Dean?
All right, Coach. Another question for you. I'm sorry.
So, smile.
Man,
Coach, you see smile. You see smile.
What makes a world-class leader in sports, right? And how is it different to say being a leader in business or politics?
Well, let's put it this way. I think there are certain qualities, at the end of the day that all leaders seem to have, at the end of the day. And one of the qualities, is that they are confident and they're competent in what they do. They have knowledge of what they have, whether it's in business. They are in control. They are persistent in what they want to do. These are some of the qualities. They have self-belief. They have belief. They have balance in their lives. They're never satisfied, really and truly with just being the ordinary. They want to get beyond that. So, and they set goals for themselves, and they plan the same things they do as in sports. That's what they do in business as well. Yes. It takes planning. You don't just go out there and decide we're going to play, It takes planning. It takes strong work ethic. It takes responsibility. They are committed. So these are some of the qualities that you need, and in any field, it's basically that's it. So it's lessons for life that you live, and not just for cricket. It's lessons that you learn for life. You have to persevere. You got to have persistent effort. Some days you might be down and out, but you don't give up. Never say die attitude. These are things that happen in business. Sometimes your business is going to fall. You don't just you find ways. You find ways to get it back on top. So it's the same kind of principle. If you want to go by principle that you go by, in sports we talk about process. Let's stick with the process. And once you lay it out and you believe in that process, you go. You have patience enough, and you say, right, I'm gonna follow the process because the process works. You evaluate it as you go along. Very important. You have to keep evaluating all the time, making sure that you're up to date with the technology, up to date with what's out there. Once you have that knowledge, man, sky's the limit.
I think one of the things that when I think about your coaching style was transparency.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I learned from you, in a sense that's the way that you was. You were very, as a leader, and I think about with that question, I thought like transparency was one of the things. You were very open, you were very transparent. You were just, this is the way it is, and let's talk about it. So I think that's one of the things. I think if I said there was a difference, that is a big difference. Sometimes
Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep. You have another one, Dean? I know you have a list.
Let's have listen.
I think
what it was, what it was just that going through, and I'll just give a small explanation, going through the experience of what I've gone through, definitely with the World Cup team. When you sit and reflect, there were so many lessons to be learned. And I know that a lot of other players have experienced the same thing, but even today, and some of the times I'm just going through certain things, the word, and we used to joke about it, but it's real. It's a process.
Yeah.
Gus used to always say, listen, if you follow the process, the result would take care of itself.
Yeah.
Never understood. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I used to say, like, hey, because there were times it was just like, hey, this guy is deep. Like, he goes deep. But once you start to apply it in life, if you're doing the right things and you're following the steps, the proper steps that you should be taking, then it's either going to happen for you or not happen for you. But at least you're doing the right things, and it's those were the lessons that were learned. But like you said, it was afterwards that you start to go back and you start to, now I get it. I've had so many of those moments where it's, right. That's what Coach was saying. That's so it.
And I think it's
thank him for that. I thank him so much.
Yeah, it's so easy because a lot of times you go to a game just like that as a team and you want to win. I say I want to win, but there's a process to win, and how are you going to win? It takes one ball at a time, one session at a time, and you go along as you go. It's like your innings. You don't get to 100 as soon as they get out there, you got to build on innings. You know what I mean? You got to assess the conditions. You got to assess the bowlers. You got to assess the pitch. All these things is processes that you go through. And once you start doing that, the outcome, as I keep saying, will take care of itself. But if you don't follow the process and you just think, I want to win, and you go there, boom, 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 maybe like West Indies, you want to hit sixes alone. I had to put that in. When you could have taken a single here, a single there, and work it out there, those are the processes. So for individuals to understand, these are little things that you got to do in order to get the outcome that you want. You got to make sure. And by the way, I must say congratulations to your football team. That was a brilliant
Yeah.
Yeah, man, to beat up Barbados, man. The Barbados might be a little worried, man. They said Barbados will say we got to play you cricket next time.
That call's already been made. That call has already been made. We couldn't beat you in football, but
we're coming now.
But Gus, what you yourself, you've played in World Cups, you've coached in World Cups, various teams. What would you prefer, to be part on the field or in the pavilion? Because as the coach, once you send your team out, you kind of don't play any more parts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As a player, it is really and truly, to be quite honest, to be out there to have that destiny in your own hands. There's nothing like that. That's just the way it is. But the realities are we can only play for so much and so long. So the next best thing is to pass on what we would have learned into somebody else. And when you see them execute out there, you feel that's as if you were part and parcel of it. So you get that glow inside and you see the players go out there and produce the kind of performances that they do. Yeah, you feel really good about it. See, I at least I wasn't on the field, but I feel I was part and parcel of making it happen.
Yeah. Do you get nervous in the pavilion?
Oh, you do. You can't not help it. You try your best not to show it, but yeah, man. We had a manager by the name of, God bless his soul, he died now. He used to be a chain smoker, Stephen Camacho, and we were playing a test match in Australia, and we had lost the first test match against Australia in a 3-test series. Now, we had the trophy in the Caribbean. We never brought the trophy to Australia, whether it was, cockiness or not. But the point is that here we are 1 down in the last test match in Adelaide. We had to win it to retain the trophy because had we lost that test match, how do you go to a presentation and go to and he was smoking. He was going through packs of cigarettes in a matter of an hour. And the game is going down to the wire. Eventually we won it, in the end. So that, they just said that the West Indies retained the trophy. So they the presentation. But yes, you do get nervous. I tell you, man, you do get nervous. And, in the formats that they play now, the T20s and stuff like that, it's quite exciting, and it gets down to the wire, and excitement.
Dean, are you finished?
That's it. Yeah. No, thank you, Coach.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah. Well, Gus, we do want to invite you back because there's so many other areas and aspects of the game. I think advice from you can help the coaches as well as the younger lot when they approach a game, when they approach a training session, because a lot of things have to be done in the backyard, and also on the training pitch and off the training pitch. But I think the experiences that you've had can help someone else along the way to kind of channel them to try to get the best out of them. Even most of it will be just words, but those words are powerful if someone takes them in and adapts them and tries to put them into a practice. I know you had a hard time getting that through minuses.
He was a good young man. He was a good young man. He was good. He had his skills and he knew his game, so he was good.
Hey, One thing I learned about Miners, get off the mark. So if he sticks his right leg down and pushes, you at the other end. Because the word no was not in the vocabulary.
Good times.
Yeah, no problem. I'm sitting, as I said before, once I'm here, I'll be happy to share whatever experience I have with the guys. One-on-one, if they need it, anything like that. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Earl, I tell you this last story. You're talking about having a flexible mind. So you gave a speech about players being flexible, right? So, hey, look, you got to be flexible. And then I think it was like the next game, Gus says, all right, Miners, you open bet. I was like a during headlights. So I was like, huh? You got to be flexible.
Was that the one in Canada?
He forewarned us.
Right.
He forewarned us. It was just like, I think it was a team talk. It was just like, hey, look, you got to be flexible. You could be betting. It's just, So I was just like,
That was the 4 day in Canada you opened bet, right?
Yeah. It was that, and I think also in Kenya.
Yeah. In Kenya, I remember the one in Kenya, yes.
And I think it was a tournament, and I was like a during headlights. I was like, huh? I didn't think it was coming that soon. But
Well, you remember Lionel as well.
He
said to Lionel, you have the game for it. This finisher thing, you just want to be finishing. No, you have the ability to score hundreds. Yeah, you believe
you got all the balls. You got all the balls to make 100.
Exactly.
I tell you.
Well, again, Luggy, Mr. Luggy, thank you very, very much. And again, maybe we'll reach out to you again to join us and share some more of your knowledge and experience with us here on the Cricket Show.
Yeah,
okay?
Thanks a lot.
Miners,
take care.
Have a good
Thanks
night.
a lot. Take care, Coach.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Have a good night, Earl.
Take care, guys.